So I'd like to introduce you to Going Forward. Now, this is a fairly obvious one. Brand new account, 2 vehicles. Now, granted, I know about conversion rates, guys. I know it's not a $120 account based on what the record is. But in the general sense of it, it might as well be $120. The thing is, my theory is that Gaijin actually has... So Gaijin apparently has a Hungarian store, or where they're based out of is Budapest, I believe. And if that's the case, and their store is different, that means that people would potentially be paying only like $10 for some of these premiums based on what it is. But because I cannot just switch my store over to Turkey or Hungary, wherever this is based, it's going to be to the point where I just cannot see what the cost is. If Gaijin explained the regional cost pricing, that would be fine. But the foist, I think is what it is for Hungary, if it was proper, then that means that the people would be paying for $60 premiums, they'd only be paying like $4, based on what I'm looking at. And if that's the case, then Gaijin needs to fix the regional pricing. The problem is they won't, because obviously the dollar is not what everyone goes for. It's not the full-on, explanation of what people are looking at. The thing is, if Gaijin fixed that, then there's probably a lot of people that would be excluded from regional pricing because of the fact that stuff is just not, ultimately correct when it comes to the pricing. I do hope that Gaijin would fix it, but clearly some people, at least botters and everyone else is exploiting that, because otherwise we wouldn't have a botter issue with these people buying like 3 or 4 premiums and ultimately getting away with all of this nonsense when it comes to these bot accounts that buy like tons of premiums and get away with it. I've also seen examples of, according to a friend of mine, who his account, at least according to him, he bought the account. The person who bought the account bought the F20 Tiger Shark and then refunded it, and he still was able to keep that vehicle. Now, if that's the case, then Gaijin is openly allowing that exploit to exist, and the person I've talked to said he still has the F20 on his account, and that's like 3 months later after I talked to him last. If this is actually an exploit that's still occurring, then Gaijin is perpetuating it and not refunding the account or refunding the vehicle with that account. Or better yet, banning the account, because Gaijin bans accounts all the time for refunding vehicles on them. So what's the deal with that? Now, I don't know if that's actually true or not. I'm basing it on the voice of a person in my comments that I've talked to, or in my Discord that I've talked to. But if it's true, then someone is openly exploiting that, and Gaijin is just not letting, or not, is going to perpetually ignore it because it's clearly not a problem for them. But why would they ignore it if it was not just a, maybe it's a Gaijin employee that's causing the abuse and doing that and figuring that out. Or maybe it's a person who's doing it under the radar and is just figuring that out by himself. Who knows? Because based on what I'm thinking about that is that the only reason that someone would ignore that would be if it was somebody interiorly that was being able to do that abuse. But if that's the case, then wouldn't they notice that they're potentially losing out on like thousands of dollars in F20 purchases? Essentially because the F20 is like $75. Yeah, I don't think that's a great deal if you're going to allow that sort of nonsense to get away with constantly. So I'm going to leave this here because this player is openly blatant from the very beginning. Killed that CV9 or LVKV 9040C at like the very beginning, like through 40 layers of bushes. So as always, if you do have a comment, please leave a comment below. Name, ID, and replay numbers, the last numbers of the URL. If you can't get the name, obviously, please just get the ID. If you can't get the ID, use the name. YouTube is deleting comments in the weirdest way fashion right now. I do not manually delete comments as much as people will claim I do. I don't. The biggest thing is that I believe that Gaijin is banning just certain names. So if you just want to put an ID because you assume it's a Russian or a Chinese name or it's got weird characters in it, just give me the ID or describe the name to me in some way, shape, or form. Also, if you want me to investigate a replay, please give it a description of what you saw with the player. I've gotten a couple people who just send me a player who gets like a nuke in a game and they just assume he's cheating. Please go watch the replay and then tell me what you saw, or even like if you encountered him, tell me what you saw with the player in question, because that gives me an idea of what to look for with the player in question. So, as always, I hope you have the rest of your morning, day, evening, or night, and have a good one.